Oh, that's right. We are at level 2 of the elimination method. Okay, now if you watch the previous video of the elimination method, that was about as basic as it gets. I can't recall exactly what the equation was, but I believe we had a 6x and a negative 6x, both with a y attached to them. So you were ready to eliminate right away. Okay, thank you for tuning into level 2 because as you know in math, we're going to make things harder and harder and harder. We are very I don't know what the word would be. We're harsh in that sense as math teachers. We really want to put you through the ringer. We want to make sure that you're challenged and we can give you as tough of problems as possible and you can still knock them out of the park. So we're going to jump up to a level 2 question. There will be a video on a level 3 type of question where we throw some real tricks to the trade in there. But you guys should be able to handle everything as long as you pay close attention and you use the steps in which I'm providing. Okay, the only difference with this type of a system, as opposed to the one in my previous video on the elimination method, is that we don't have a match. Your very first step, step number 1, you want to look at each one and you want to ask yourself, 5 and 2, not the same. I can't eliminate through addition or subtraction. Okay, 6 and 3, not the same. I can't eliminate through addition or subtraction. But you want to find out if there's a way to turn one of those terms into a match. Okay, now specifically through multiplication. Now, what I mean by that is if you're going to multiply any of these numbers, could you multiply them by something to make a match to the other one above or below it? So I'm going to look at 5 and I'm going to ask myself, can I multiply by something to get a 2? No. Can I multiply 2 by something to get a 5? No. Can I multiply 6 by something to get a 3? No. Can I multiply 3 by something to get a 6? Ding, 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 ding. Yes, you can. Okay, so right there, you should have your aha moment. Okay, I can turn a 3 into a 6, therefore I will have a match. All right, and we're going to do exactly that. I off to the side, outside of the brackets, will put times the number I need to make that 6, which we all know 3 times 2 will make a 6. Now, I also tell my students to put parentheses around it because if you remember back to the distributed property, which I could throw a video up on YouTube so you guys can learn the distributed property if you don't know it, but you need to distribute the outside term to each of the inner terms. And yes, it goes to all 3, even the one after the equal sign. So we're going to do exactly that. We're going to multiply 2 by 2x, 3y, and negative 5. Let's do it together. 2 times 2x is going to give me a 4x. 2 times 3y is going to give me a positive 6y. And 2 times negative 5 is going to give me a negative 10. So you're now going to forget about this equation, and you're now using these 2 equations in the elimination method. Now, I am all about organization, keeping your work nice and clean. Math can get very chaotic and crazy, so move off to the side, take the time, rewrite the problem out again so that everything is looking nice and crisp. 5x plus 6y equals negative 8. That's your first one. 4x plus 6y equals negative 10. Now, since we are on a level 2, I'm going to move a little bit faster than I did through the first problem that I showed on the very first video. Okay, hopefully you already have the skill from here on out to complete this. So I will be moving a little bit faster through. Pay close attention. And as long as you understood everything in video number 1 with elimination method, you should be right on track with me. Okay, I see a match here, 6 and 6. They're both positives. The only way to eliminate 2 positive 6s, you don't want to add them together like we did in video 1. You want to subtract them. So put the subtraction symbol over here. Remember, we're going to use the 3-point method, making a triangle, checking and making sure we're doing everything correctly. 5 minus 4 gives me 1x, which you can show as just an x if you like. I like to remove the 1 whenever it's attached to the x. Okay, 6 minus 6y, that's going to give you a 0. Do I need to show it? Absolutely not. Put a line through it. Okay, equal sign comes straight down. Negative 8 minus a negative. This is the big one for my students. I have to always reach out to them and say a negative is going to be a positive. That's right. Subtracting a negative is really adding. So we have negative 8 plus 10, which would give me a positive 2. And you better believe it, we are already done with the x. We don't have to do any dividing like we did on the other problem because x is already isolated. It was a 1x. So I'm going to take x equals 2. I'm going to plug that into one of these equations over here, one of my originals. You could plug it into the ones you made. It just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense because you're using bigger numbers than you would have started with. So I'm going to just choose one of these. And why not? Let's go with the bottom one that we'd already crossed out. But you can still see it. It is 2x, but we now know x is 2. So in parentheses, I'm going to put a 2 plus 3y equals -5. Notice my x is gone. Now I have eliminated the x, which we already know the value of, and I'm going to find the y. So I'm going to multiply 2 times 2 and make a 4. You better believe it. We find ourselves right back to a two-step equation, which you're going to find yourself in all the time in algebra. Okay, these two are attached. You can't get rid of them yet. We need to get rid of that 4. It's a positive 4, so we need to subtract. 3y comes down. Hopefully you guys can see that. Ooh, it's close. It's right on the bottom of my camera there. Okay, we'll make it. -5 minus 4. You're taking 4 away from a negative. You're going further back into the negative values, taking you all the way back to a -9. Okay? Last and final step. These are being multiplied. I'll just write it over here so you guys can see the last and final step. 3y equals -9. I just copied that down and put it over here so that you guys can see it. We're going to divide by 3 because this is being multiplied. Inverse operations again coming into play. Now I divide by 3 over here. A negative divided by a positive. Notice how I always talk to myself as I'm working through math. Okay, this is honestly how I would do it at a table by myself. You should be saying these things to yourself. A negative divided by a positive equals a, you better believe it, a negative. So we now know that y is -3, x is +2. We want to write our solution to a system down as an ordered pair. 2, -3. Again, if we were to graph these, which is another method, you can see it in another video, taking two standard form equations, making lines on a coordinate grid, those two lines would cross at exactly 2, -3. We also know, since it is a solution, if I were to plug a 2 in right there for the x, a -3 right there for the y, it will come out as -8. It will also work in my second equation if I put a 2 in for x here times 2, and a -3 times -3, it will result in a -5. We found the one and only, how cool is that? The one and only combination of numbers that will work for both of these equations. All right, you've made it through level 2. Next up comes the boss. All right, Mario, get to it. You're going to do great on your upcoming test.